The emergency sirens had stopped 3 hours ago, but the station still hummed with chaos. Pressed herself against the corridor wall as medical teams rushed past, their boots pounding on the metal floor. She had been on station for 11 months now, working in the xenobiology lab, studying soil samples from distant worlds. It was quiet work, safe work, the kind of work that let her forget she was millions of light years from Earth. But today was different. The refugees had arrived without warning. Their ships had limped into the station's docking bay, hulls burned black, engines dying. Inside were the survivors of a disaster that had killed billions. Their sun had flared without warning, a violent explosion of heat and radiation that had scorched half their planet to ash in less than a day. Those who escaped had nowhere else to go. Supervisor had called her into his office that morning. He was a tall, thin being with blue skin and 4 arms, and he always looked tired. "We need you in the refugee center," he had said. "The children, they are not doing well." "I study plants," had replied. "I do not know anything about children." "You are human. Humans are adaptable, that is what the council says." He had waved one of his hands. "Go help." So she went. The refugee center was a large cargo bay that had been cleared out and filled with temporary beds. The smell hit her first: burned fur, fear, medicine. The adult lay on their beds, silent and still, their amber eyes staring at nothing. They were tall beings, taller than humans, with bodies covered in silver fur. Their faces were long like wolves, and their hands ended in dark claws. They had been a proud people once. Now they looked broken. A medical worker pointed toward a corner of the bay. "The children are there. Good luck." Walked across the bay, stepping over supply crates and medical equipment. As she got closer, she heard a sound that made her chest hurt. It was crying, but not like human crying. It was a low, keening wail that rose and fell like wind through empty buildings. The children were huddled together in the corner. 47 of them, she would learn later. Some were as tall as her waist. Others were barely larger than human bobbies. Their fur was matted and dirty, their eyes red from crying. They pressed against each other, a mass of trembling bodies, and when they saw approaching, they went silent. 47 pairs of golden eyes stared at her. Stopped, she did not know what to do. She was not trained for this. She was a scientist, not a caretaker. She studied dead things under microscopes. She did not know how to help living things that were in pain. But something in those eyes made her kneel down. She made herself small. She did not reach out. She did not speak loud words. She just knelt there on the cold metal floor and waited. One of the smaller cubs moved. It was tiny, barely reaching her knee, with fur that was lighter than the others. Its ears were flat against its head, and it was shaking so hard that could see its whole body vibrating. "Hello," said softly. "It is okay, you are safe now." The cub whimpered. It took one step forward, then another. Then it launched itself at her, burying its face in her shoulder, its small claws digging into her shirt. Caught it without thinking. She held it close, feeling its heart beating fast against her chest. It was warm, it was alive, and it was so scared. "I am here," she whispered. "I am here." One by one, the other cubs moved forward. They did not rush. They came slowly, carefully, as if they expected her to disappear at any moment. One pressed against her side. Another climbed onto her lap. A third wrapped its arms around her leg and held on tight. Within minutes, was covered in cubs. She sat there for hours. She did not move, even when her legs went numb. She did not speak except to whisper soft words that meant nothing and everything. The cubs cried against her. They shook against her. Some of them fell asleep, their small bodies going limp with exhaustion. A shadow fell over her. Looked up to see an old standing nearby. His fur was white with age, and he moved slowly, as if every step cost him effort. His eyes were the color of dark honey, and they were fixed on her with an expression she could not read. "You are the human," he said. His voice was deep and rough. "Yes," replied, "I am." I was once an elder of the High Council." He looked at the cubs piled around her. They would not eat. They would not sleep. We sent adults to care for them, but they refused everyone. They were dying. His arms tightened around the cub in her lap. "They are just scared." "Yes, but they were scared of us too, their own kind." Ears twitched. "And yet they come to you, a stranger, an alien. Why?" Did not have an answer. She did not understand it herself. Watched her for a long moment. Then he made a sound, low in his throat, that might have been a laugh. "Perhaps," he said, "some things do not need to be understood, only accepted." He walked away, leaving alone with the cubs. That night did not go back to her quarters. She stayed in the refugee center, surrounded by sleeping children, and she thought about her life before this. She thought about her laboratory, her microscopes, her quiet days studying things that could not feel pain. She thought about how empty that life seemed now. The smallest cub stirred in her arms. It looked up at her with golden eyes that seemed too old for such a young face. It whispered. Did not know the word, but somehow she knew what it meant. Warm one. She held the cub closer and watched the station's artificial stars through the viewport. Somewhere out there was still burning. Somewhere out there, the universe continued its cold, indifferent march forward. But here, in this corner of a cargo bay, 47 children had found something to hold on to. And had found something too. 3 weeks passed and stopped going to her laboratory. At first, she told herself it was temporary. The cubs needed someone, and she was the only one they would accept. Once they were stable, once they started eating and sleeping properly, she would return to her normal work. She would go back to studying soil samples and writing reports that no one read. But the days turned into weeks, and she did not leave. She learned their names. There was the smallest cub who had not spoken a single word since the burning. There was Juno, a tall boy with dark fur who tried to act brave but cried in his sleep. There was Sara, a girl with one ear that did not stand up straight, who followed everywhere like a shadow. There were 44 others, each one different, each one carrying wounds that could not be seen. Learned other things too. She learned that cubs could not sleep alone. They needed warmth, the press of other bodies, the sound of breathing. So she built them a den in the corner of the refugee center, using blankets and cushions and anything soft she could find. She wove the blankets together with her own hands, spending hours each night making sure there were no gaps where cold air could get in. She learned that they would not eat the standard ration packs the station provided. The food was nutritious but cold, and cubs needed warmth in everything. So she found a small heating unit and started warming their meals, sitting with them while they ate, making sure each one finished. She learned their songs. They had songs for everything. Songs for morning and songs for night. Songs for joy and songs for grief. She could not sing them properly. Her human throat could not make the low, rumbling sounds they used, but she tried anyway. The cubs would laugh at her attempts, and that laughter was the most beautiful sound she had ever heard. Elder watched all of this. He did not interfere. He did not offer advice. He simply watched, his old eyes following as she moved through the refugee center, surrounded by cubs who called her. One evening, he approached her while the cubs were eating. "You weave blankets," he said. Looked up from the bowl she was holding. Was in her lap eating slowly, her small body pressed against his chest. "They get cold at night," said. "The station's heating is not enough for them." "No, that is not what I mean." Sat down across from her, his old bones creaking. "Among my people, weaving is a sacred act. We do not weave for comfort. We weave to build homes. When a weaves, they are saying, 'This is where I belong. This is where I will stay.'" Was quiet for a moment. "I did not know that." "I believe you." Eyes moved to the den she had built. "You have made them a home of earth. Do you understand what that means?" They needed somewhere safe. Many beings need safe places. Not all of them find someone willing to build one. He paused. "The adults I sent to care for them, they brought food and medicine. They did their duty, but you brought something else. I do not know what you mean. Made that low sound again, the one that might have been a laugh. You lie poorly, human, I have watched you. You arrive at the refugee center before the station's lights turn on. You leave after they turn off. You learn our language even though it hurts your throat. You sing our songs even though you cannot make the right sounds. You do all of this and you say you do not know why. Look down at. The small cub had finished eating and was falling asleep in her lap, her breathing slow and steady. When I first came here, said quietly, I saw them in that corner, all of them huddled together shaking. They looked so lost, so alone, she swallowed. I know what that feels like, to be lost, to be alone, to have no one come for you. Was silent. I could not walk away, continued. I could not leave them there and go back to my laboratory and pretend I did not see them. They needed someone, anyone, and I was there. But you stayed. Yes. Why? Did not answer for a long time. The refugee center was quiet around them. Most of the cubs were asleep now, piled together in the den she had built. Their soft breathing filled the air like a gentle wind. Because they chose me, she finally said. I do not know why I cannot run as fast as them or see in the dark like them or howl at the moons, but they still chose me. And that, she paused, searching for words. That means something. It has to mean something. Reached out and placed his hand on her shoulder. His claws were long and dark, but his touch was gentle. Among my people, he said, there is a saying. A pack is not born, a pack is chosen. We do not become family because of blood, we become family because of hearts. He squeezed her shoulder once, then let go. You did not choose to come here, but you chose to stay, and they chose to love you. That is how packs are made of earth. That is how families are built. He stood slowly and looked down at her, his old eyes soft. The cubs call you Warm One. It is a name of honor, a name of love. He paused. I think perhaps you are the warmest person I have ever met. He walked away, leaving alone with the sleeping cubs. She sat there for a long time, holding close, thinking about packs and families and choices. She thought about her life on Earth, the parents who had left her in an orphanage when she was small, the years she had spent alone, always on the outside looking in. She had crossed the galaxy to escape that loneliness. She had buried herself in work and science and cold, dead things that could not hurt her. But here, in this corner of a space station, 47 small hearts had found her. And she had found them too. Bent down and pressed her forehead against the sleeping head. I am here, she whispered. I am not going anywhere. In her sleep smiled. The delegation arrived 3 months after the burning. Heard about it from one of the station workers, a small creature with too many eyes who always looked nervous. They stopped her in the corridor and said, ships are coming, official ones, from the colony on Prime. They are coming for the children. His blood turned cold. She had known this day would come. The cubs they belonged with. The station was never meant to be their permanent home. It was just a stopping point, a place to rest before moving on to somewhere else. But knowing something and feeling something were different things. She walked to the refugee center slowly, her legs heavy, her heart pounding. The cubs were playing when she arrived, chasing each other around the cargo bay, their high-pitched yips filling the air. Juno had organized them into teams, and they were playing some kind of hunting game that did not fully understand. When they saw her, they stopped playing and ran toward her. Sora shouted, wrapping her arms around his waist, "You are back, come play with us." Forced a smile. "Maybe later, little one, I need to talk to Elder." The old was sitting in his usual spot, watching the cubs with his honey-colored eyes. He looked up when approached. "You have heard," he said. It was not a question. "Yes," sat down beside him. "What will happen?" "The delegation will come. They will assess the situation. They will take the cubs to the colony where they will be placed with families." Paused. "It is the proper thing, the right thing. Cubs need pack. They have pack. The words came out before could stop them. They have each other, they have. She stopped. They have you, finished quietly. Did not answer. The delegation arrived the next morning. There were 5 of them, all adults, all wearing formal robes that marked them as government officials. Their leader was a female named, tall and strong, with a long scar running down the left side of her face. She moved like a warrior, and her eyes were hard and cold. Looked around the refugee center, taking in the den had built, the cubs hiding behind their human caretaker, the strange arrangement that had grown over the past 3 months. So she said, "This is the situation." Yes, replied. He stood beside his old body straight and proud. This is the situation. Walked closer. Her eyes moved from the cubs to studying her with obvious distaste. You are the human. Yes, my name is. I did not ask your name. Turned to. Elder, this is not acceptable. These are cubs, they need care, not. She waved a hand at this. The cubs disagree, said calmly. The cubs are children. They do not know what is best for them. Perhaps, or perhaps they understand something that we do not. Made a sound of frustration, low in her throat. She turned to the cubs who were pressed against back, watching with wide, frightened eyes. Children of, she said, her voice formal and commanding. I am of the 3rd pack. I have come to take you home. You will live on Prime with proper families, proper care. You will learn to be again. No one moved. Come said, do not be afraid, we are your people. Still no one moved. Juno stepped forward. He was the oldest of the cubs, nearly as tall as now, and his eyes were hard with an anger that made him look much older than his years. We are not going, he said. His ears flattened, excuse me. We are not going, not without. Looked at confusion on her face. What is this? It is what we call her, Sora said, stepping up beside Juno. She is our warm one, she is ours. She is a human. Voice was sharp now, angry. She cannot be pack, she cannot be yours. Humans are not. We do not care, Juno said. She stayed with us when everyone else left. She fed us when we could not eat. She held us when we cried. She sang us songs and built us a home and never, not once, asked for anything back. His voice cracked. She is more pack than anyone you could find on Prime. Stared at him. For a moment she seemed lost, uncertain how to respond. Then her face hardened again. This is foolishness. Children do not decide such things. You will come with us and the human will go back to her laboratory and this strange arrangement will end. No. The voice was small, barely more than a whisper, but everyone heard it. Stepped out from behind. She was still the smallest of the cubs, her fur still light, her eyes still too old. But she stood straight and tall, and when she spoke again, her voice did not shake. No, she said, I will not go, I will never go, not without my. His heart broke open. Had not spoken in 6 months. Not since the burning, not since she had watched her parents disappear in a wave of fire. The medical workers had said she might never speak again. The trauma was too deep, the wound too fresh. But now she was speaking. Now she was standing in front of a warrior, small and fragile and impossibly brave, and she was saying no. One by one, the other cubs stepped forward. They formed a line in front of 47 children facing 5 adults, and not one of them looked afraid. We will not go, they said together. Not without her, never without her. Looked at them. She looked at who was watching everything with an expression that might have been pride. This is madness, she said finally. A human cannot be pack. Perhaps, replied. Or perhaps the cubs understand something that we have forgotten. Perhaps they remember what it truly means to choose family. He stepped forward, placing himself between the delegation and the cubs. You will not take them, he said. Not today, not like this. If you want these cubs, you will have to convince them, and right now I do not think they are interested in listening. stared at him for a long moment. Then she made a sound of disgust and turned away. "We will return tomorrow," she said. "This is not over." She walked out of the refugee center, the rest of the delegation following behind her. The moment they were gone, legs gave out. She collapsed to the floor, shaking, tears streaming down her face. The cubs surrounded her instantly. They pressed against her, held her, whispered soft words in her ears. "It is okay," said, climbing into her lap. "We are not leaving, we are staying with you, forever." Held her tight and cried, woke in darkness to find someone standing over her bed. Her heart slammed against her chest. She sat up fast, hands grabbing the blanket, ready to run, ready to fight, ready for whatever danger had found her in the night. Then she saw who it was. Elder stood beside her bed, his white fur glowing faintly in the dim light from the viewport. His old eyes were soft, and he held one hand up in a gesture of peace. "Do not be afraid," he said. "I did not mean to frighten you." Forced herself to breathe. Her small quarters on the station were quiet except for the constant hum of the life support systems. Through the viewport, she could see the distant stars, cold and beautiful. "What is it?" she asked. "The cubs, are they okay?" "The cubs are safe. They sleep in the den you built for them, surrounded by the blankets you wove. I checked on them before I came here." Paused. "Little was holding your pillow, the one you gave her last week when she could not sleep." She was smiling. "Relax slightly. Then why are you here? It is the middle of the night." "I know, I apologize for the hour, but I have news that could not wait." The old moved slowly, his joints stiff with age, and lowered himself onto the small chair beside bed. He sat there for a moment, gathering his thoughts, and found herself holding her breath. "After the delegation left today," began, "I expected trouble. Is not known for giving up easily. She has a strong sense of duty, and she believes she is doing the right thing. Taking the cubs to Prime, placing them with proper families. In her mind, she is saving them." "She does not understand," said quietly. "No, she does not, but she is not wrong to worry. You are human. Yours is shorter than ours. Your body is fragile. You cannot teach the cubs to hunt or fight or do any of the things that must learn to survive." Sighed. "On paper, she has every reason to take them away from you." His hands tightened on the blanket. "I know. But something happened tonight that changed everything." The old's eyes met hers, and in them she saw something that looked like wonder. "The cubs held council." "Council, what does that mean?" "Among my people, council is how important decisions are made. Every member of a pack has a voice. Every member has a vote. Even the youngest, even the weakest, even those who have no power anywhere else. In council, all are equal." Leaned forward. "Tonight, while you slept, the 47 cubs gathered in their den. Juno called them together. He said that they needed to decide officially and forever what they wanted. Not what the adults wanted, not what the delegation wanted, what they wanted." Felt tears building behind her eyes. "They are just children." "Cubs are not human children. They are young, yes, but they understand loyalty. They understand pack. They understand what it means to give your heart to someone and never take it back." Reached out and placed his hand over hers. His claws were dark and sharp, but his touch was gentle. "They voted of Earth, all 47 of them. Even Little, who did not speak for 6 months, raised her voice tonight." The tears spilled over, could not stop them. "What did they decide?" she whispered. "They voted to claim you, unanimously, not a single voice against. They declared you Pack Mother, the warm one who held them when their world burned. They wove your name into their howl." His own eyes glistened. "Do you understand what that means? Among, a howl is sacred. It is how we speak to the stars, how we declare who we are to the universe. A name woven into a howl becomes part of that person forever. It cannot be undone. It cannot be broken. Those 47 cubs have made you family, not just in word but in soul." Could not speak. Her throat was too tight, her heart too full. "But that is not all," continued. When the cubs finished their vote, they came to me, all of them walking in a line, smallest to largest, led them. She stood before me, this tiny cub who lost everything, and she looked up at me with eyes that had seen too much pain. And she said, the old's voice broke. He had to stop and compose himself before he could continue. She said, Elder, we have chosen. She is ours and we are hers. Tell the delegation, tell the council, tell everyone who tries to take us away. We would rather die than leave our. His hand flew to her mouth. They cannot mean that, she said through her fingers. They are children. They do not know what they are saying. They do not speak idle words about death. Not even cubs, not even in play, squeezed her hand. They love you so much that they would walk into fire rather than be separated from you. That is not childish foolishness. That is the deepest love I have ever witnessed. The old stood slowly, bones creaking. Tomorrow and her delegation will return. They will demand an answer. They will try to take the cubs by authority, by law, by force if necessary. His eyes hardened. But I will stand beside you, and the cubs will stand beside you, and we will tell the truth. What truth? That a human did what no could do. That you walked into a room full of broken, dying children and you loved them. Not because you had to. Not because anyone told you to. You simply loved them, and that love saved them. Walked to the door of her quarters. Before he left, he turned back to look at her. The galaxy believes humans are weak, forgettable, useful only for the tasks that other species refuse to do. They call you soft. They call you fragile. They look at your small bodies and your short lives and they see nothing worth respecting. His old eyes burned with sudden fire. They are wrong. They are so terribly wrong. And tomorrow we'll learn just how wrong. Because she will see 47 cubs willing to die for a human, and she will have to ask herself why. He stepped through the door. Try to sleep of Earth. Tomorrow will be a long day. The door closed behind him. Sat in the darkness for a long time. The stars wheeled slowly past her viewport. Somewhere on the station, 47 cubs were sleeping in a den she had built with her own hands, dreaming dreams she could not see. They had chosen her. In a universe of cold logic and ancient hierarchies, where humans were barely considered worth noticing, 47 small hearts had looked at her and seen something worth loving. Something worth dying for. Lay back down and closed her eyes. For the first time in months, she did not dream of fire. She dreamed of howling. The ceremony was held in the station's largest cargo bay. Someone had cleared out all the crates and equipment. Someone had hung tapestries on the walls, beautiful weavings of silver and gold that the refugees had carried with them from the burning. Someone had set up lights that glowed warm and soft, nothing like the cold fluorescent strips that usually lit the station. Stood at the entrance and could not make herself walk in. The bay was full of people, not just but other species too. Station workers, council observers, curious aliens who had heard rumors about what was happening and wanted to see it for themselves. Even a handful of humans standing together in a small group near the back, watching with expressions that ranged from confused to proud. Elder stood at the center of the bay, wearing formal robes that made him look like the leader he had once been. The cubs stood in a semicircle behind him, their fur brushed clean, their eyes bright. They were wearing ribbons that someone had woven for them, strips of silver and gold that matched the tapestries on the walls. When they saw, they started yipping with excitement. Some of them bounced on their feet, others waved their small hands. Standing at the front of the group, smiled so wide that her teeth showed. And her delegation stood to one side. The warrior's face was unreadable, but she was watching everything closely. She had not left after yesterday's confrontation. She had stayed and she had listened, and something in her hard eyes had changed. Did not know what that meant. Juno appeared beside her. The tall cub took her hand in his dark fur warm against her skin. "Are you ready?" he asked. No admitted, I am terrified. Juno laughed. Good. Elder says that courage is not the absence of fear. It is moving forward even when you are afraid. He squeezed her hand. Come, we are waiting for you. He led her into the bay. The crowd parted as she walked through, kept her eyes fixed on the cubs, on their bright faces and wagging tails. She could feel everyone watching her, could feel the weight of all those eyes, but she did not look away from the children who had chosen her. She stopped in front of Elder. The old looked at her for a long moment. His eyes were gentle, his expression proud. We are here, he intoned, his voice carrying across the silent bay, to witness what has not been witnessed in 10,000 years. A human will join not as a servant, not as an ally, not as an observer or a caretaker or a temporary solution. He paused. As Pack. A murmur ran through the crowd, heard surprise, confusion, disbelief, but she also heard something else, something that sounded like respect. Continued. 3 months ago, this human walked into a room full of dying children. She did not know them. She had no duty to them. She was a scientist who studied dead things, not a mother who raised living ones. But when she saw those children suffering, she did not walk away. She stayed. His voice grew stronger. She learned their names. She learned their songs. She wove blankets for them with her own hands, not knowing that weaving is sacred among our people, not knowing that she was building a home. She fed them when they could not eat. She held them when they cried. She stayed awake through long nights, comforting children who were not her own, asking for nothing in return. Turned to face the cubs. And the children responded. They called her. They followed her like shadows. They chose her, again and again, over adults of their own species. When the delegation came to take them away, they refused. They stood before warriors and officials and they said no. They said they would rather die than leave her. He turned back to. The cubs have held council, they have voted, they have claimed this human as Pack Mother and they have woven her name into their howl. He reached out and placed both hands on her shoulders. Of Earth, the cubs have chosen you. They have howled your name to the stars. Do you accept their claim? Do you swear to guard them, guide them, and carry their hearts until your last breath? His voice came out as a whisper. I do. Then kneel. She knelt. The cubs moved forward. One by one they approached her. One by one they pressed their foreheads against hers, sharing breath, sharing warmth, sharing something that words could not describe. Juno went first, his serious eyes soft with love. Sara went second, her crooked ear twitching with joy. The others followed, a parade of small bodies and bright eyes, each one stopping to touch their forehead to hers, each one whispering the same word. Pack, you are ours. Went last. The smallest cub stood before, her light fur glowing in the warm lights, her golden eyes swimming with tears. She reached up and placed her small paws on his face, holding her gently, as if she were the most precious thing in the universe. Whispered, you are mine, I am yours forever. Broke. She pulled into her arms and wept, and the other cubs piled on top of them, a warm, furry, howling heap of joy. The sound they made filled the cargo bay, rose through the station, seemed to shake the very stars. It was wild and beautiful and ancient, and found herself joining in, her human voice mixing with theirs, imperfect but true. From her place by the wall watched. The warrior had been prepared to take the cubs by force if necessary. She had been prepared to explain that tradition mattered, that blood mattered, that humans could never truly understand what it meant to be. But watching the cubs cling to this small, fragile alien, watching them howl with joy as they claimed her as their mother, felt something shift in her chest. She had been wrong. She did not understand why a human could inspire such love. She did not understand how someone so soft, so weak, so unlike them could become the center of a pack. But she could not deny what she was seeing. 47 children who had lost everything had found something worth living for. And that something was a human. Stepped forward. The crowd fell silent. The cubs looked up, fear flashing across their faces, and they pressed closer too. But did not come to take them. She knelt. She pressed her forehead to the ground in front of, the deepest gesture of respect among the, and she said words that had never been spoken before. Pack Mother, I was wrong to doubt you. I was wrong to try to separate you from your cubs. I ask for your forgiveness, and I ask for your permission to carry word of this day back to my people. She looked up, and her hard eyes were soft. The galaxy must know what happened here. They must know that a human saved us. Did not know what to say. She looked at Elder helpless, and the old smiled. Tell them, said. Tell everyone. Tell them that humanity is not weak. Tell them that warmth is not weakness. Tell them that 47 children chose a human over their own species, and that human proved worthy of that choice. He looked around the cargo bay, at the gathered crowd, at the cubs still piled around, at the tapestries that told stories of ancient heroes. Tell them that a new story has begun, and it is the warmest story of all. Years later, they would still talk about that day. They would talk about the human who saved the cubs, who became pack mother to orphans, who proved that love was stronger than blood. They would talk about how the cubs grew strong and proud, how they became leaders and healers and warriors, and how every single one of them carried her name tattooed over their hearts. They would talk about how she changed the way the galaxy saw humanity. Not weak, not forgettable, not disposable. Warm. And in the end, that was enough. That was more than enough. That was everything. In the cargo bay of station, surrounded by children who loved her, held her pack close and smiled. She was home.